Avalanche Studios co-founder Christofer Sundberg is leaving the company after 16 years. Sundberg, who also serves as Chief Creative Officer, announced his departure on Twitter yesterday, and said he will be stepping down at the end of April. He co-founded the studio back in March 2003 with Linus Blomberg, with the pair having previously worked together at Paradox Interactive. Sundberg led development on the original Just Cause as creative director, and helped reel in a publisher after successfully pitching the concept to Eidos Interactive. The open-world title went on to be a success, and has spawned 3 sequels including the recently launched Just Cause 4. Under Sundberg's guidance, Avalanche worked on other notable projects, like X-Max, an action-adventure game based on the film series Avalanche, which is due to arrive in May this year. Asking a game maker what the greatest game of all time is, and there's a decent chance they will say Tetris. Ask anyone how you organize an exciting, authentic competitive event around Tetris and you will probably get some blank stares, unless you are at the 2019 Game Developers Conference, where you will probably get a lot of strong opinions and some suggestions to go see the classic Tetris World Championship doc. Specifically, you will want to check out Tetris World Championship, Building Explosive Esports on 8-bit Nintendo, a DD 2019 business marketing track talk all about the genesis and inner workings of the classic Tetris World Championship, which has grown since its 2010 debut to become one of the biggest modern Tetris events. Presented by veteran consultant and esports commentator Chris Tang, currently a senior game designer at Xbox Games. This session explores how the CTWC FORMA team makes the most of old things, like NES Tetris, quirky kill screens, ultra technology, a passionate community low in toxicity, and high in intellect, attachment to growing gaming events, explosive memes, and having an amazing role model for a champion. This is a great opportunity to learn how the positive esports culture around the CTWC was cultivated, and how it reflects back to strength and value of both the event and the modern community of participants. It's a feel-good story with useful takeaways for any sports staff, so do not miss it. Further details on this talk and many more are available now on THEGDC 2019 session scheduler. There you can begin to lay out your GD 2019, which takes place March 18th through the 22nd at the newly renovated Moscone Center in San Francisco. Bring your team to GD, register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more. For more details on GDC 2019, visit the show's official website, or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, or Gamasutra and GD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. Dusk is a terrific 90s inspired horror action shooter that, as of this writing, is rated overwhelmingly positive on Steam. Published by Avalanche Interactive, it achieved that popularity with a combination of evocative mood, fast-paced action, and a visual style that hit the nostalgia bullseye. After years in development, including a period in early access, Dusk finally hit full release a month ago. We talked to creator, programmer, level builder and game designer David Szymanski about this successful quickie homage. Szymanski explains his game in his words. At first, before we watched anyone play, I got the game into players' hands. You get thrown into the deep end from moment one. But it's part of a fake deep end. You have plenty of health and morale, Dusk's version of armor, and room to kite enemies around. And even if you do end up dying, once it's pretty obvious what you have to do the next time around. Provided they were on an appropriate difficult level and provided they have at least some basic knowledge of standard FPS controls. I do not think I have ever seen a player die there more than once, give up without getting past the first room. It's kind of unwanted tutorial. It is giving players a chance to warm up. It gets them familiar with the basic controls, movement speed, and enemy behavior, just in a way that encourages them to immediately engage with the game instead of spending 15 minutes responding to on-screen tooltips. I do not think it's the sort of thing that would work for every game, but at least a game about getting back to basics and trimming the fat, it felt like an appropriate start. My go-to answer is always, pick any game from about 1993 to 2001 and it has probably inspired Dusk in some way. Obviously all the big ones, Doom, Quake, Half-Life, Duke, Blood, etc., 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 but lesser-known ones also, like the Blood Effects, the particle arc thing you see in older lit-tech games like Blood 2 and Showgirl. Several levels take cues from Dichotomous. Yes, really. The climbing power-up was partially informed by the alien in Act F2. I basically just witnessed taking elements I liked from various 90s shooters, and did referencing them, wholesale stealing them, and from other sorts of games too, from other eras. There's a lot of Deus Ex and Thief in Dusk, as well as Stalker and even some Condemned. And that's without even getting into Dave's contributions. There's an entire level layout patterned after a dungeon in Planescape Torment. For instance, the reasoning to Savok's classic FPS graphics was twofold. First, I am one guy and I make my assets in it from scratch, as near to scratch as I can get, making it look like Doom 2016 was never an option. Second, I just really love that low-poly software rendered look. Even a decade ago, when it was both woefully out of date and a long way from being fashionably retro, I adored how games like Quake and Chasm, the Rift looked. It's a bit more in vogue now, but when I started Disc 4-ish years ago, I think the only other game really shooting for that same thing was Strafe. There was not an established, this is new school only 3 drawback, art look. If there was, I was not seeing it, and I could not find anything in the way of tutorials outlining old school modeling texture in workflows tech. So I basically just pored over old games, staring at walls and floors, and looked over Quake models, and tried to reach some sort of aesthetic that mushed everything together, while simultaneously learning to draw textures and model things other than blocky buildings. All that to say that Dusk look is a product of both the purposeful aesthetic direction and my own weaknesses and inexperience, which is why maybe some of the models ended up looking blockier than Quake, and some of the textures do not plot quite as much or tile quite as well or communicate as much detail. But at the end of the day, it all looks like Disc, which I think is just as important. We have definitely gotten complaints about visuals not measuring up to Quake in some areas, or to newer modes like Arcane Dimensions. And of course, every so often there's someone who just plain old is not on board with an early 3D look. But none of those seem to have affected the game in any meaningful way with critics or our audience, which I am very grateful for. The idea that you have to change cutting-edge graphical tech to attract players, as insurance against bad reviews, seems really outdated to me. We have had years now of lower fidelity, or even downright ugly games, going toe-to-toe with high-fidelity professional-looking efforts. One of the highest-rated first-person shooters on Steam right now is Blood and Bacon, which at passing glance could also mistake for a relic from the 90s. The greatest bedroom programmer success story of our generation. Minecraft released long before low-fidelity visuals were mainstream acceptable. Five Nights at Freddy's looked like it could have been a budget pre-rendered point-and-click adventure from the early 00s. Undertale's basic monochromatic pixel art while Hearts undermines over other games with lavish sprite. Meanwhile, I have seen technically impressive games with middling reviews and very little audience draw. Players do not care about graphics tech as much as we think, or even probably as much as they think. Years of indie darlings have granted mainstream acceptance to lo-fi, upload-polished woes, while simultaneously the rise of Unity's asset store and Unreal's marketplace have normalized the head-polyp to shiny look and eliminated players' ability to judge a game's merit based on its graphical quality. In fact, I do say the opposite is true now. As a player, when I come across a game I have never heard of with a lot of high-quality assets in the screenshots and a standard acceptable art style, is something that could be of general use as an asset pack for a wide variety of different games, I generally assume that's either someone's first game and it's jankily assembled from purchased assets, or it's a straight-up flip of an asset pack, unless something suggests otherwise.